Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Hey, good day, family, and welcome to a special edition of checking in on what's going on with Black Femicide. And I'm so honored to be joined by our guest, Sister Rosa of Black Femicide. It's Black Femicide USA, correct?
Yes.
Okay, how you doing, Sister Rosa? Thank you so much for your work.
Oh, thank you. I'm doing good considering the heat out here where I am, but I'm doing good, and everybody's fine. How you been?
It's great. Same thing out here. Same thing with the heat. I know we haven't talked in a while, but I always support your work and I always share your work because I think it is so important. I think to me, you represent the spirit that I know of Black people, where we don't complain and have long conversations, that we do something, we document ourselves.
Yes.
We share it here, and documenting and being an advocate and a voice for Black femicide. And so how did you come up with this definition of Black femicide?
Well, it's a broad definition what femicide is. I used a broader definition, but the actual definition of femicide is just defined as the intentional killing of a woman or girl. But there are broader definitions which can include any killing of a woman or girl. And so I tend to use the more broader definition as it relates to rampant violence in our community.
Right on, right on. So let me ask you, date. You know what the numbers are for Black femicide?
Yes, ma'am. As of today, there are 806. And that date, the 806th person was counted yesterday, which is the 28th. I don't have any for the 29th, of course, but 806 as of July 28th. And we can go back and compare that number last year on July 28th. The number July 28th last year was 630. And in 2019, on July 28th, that number was, let me look at this real quick. That number in 2019 was 121. So we can see how those numbers have drastically increased.
So you're telling me on this date in 2021, you have the number of 806 Black women that have been murdered at the hands of mainly Black men, correct?
98% of them are Black men, and Black men and boys. The other 2% are either, I'll just say other, because they're not Black men or boys. It can white men, white women, Black women, it's just Hispanic. That 2% is just non-black men, non-black boys.
Okay, so and then 2020 that number was 630, and 2019 it was 521. So there has been a increase, a steady increasing and climbing the killing of black girls and women in the United States. And what has the response you've seen from our community in particular, not any other communities? Because we'd be upset if the police did something, but it seems like when we kill each other, there's really no response from black people.
It's the same response. It's being divisive to bring attention to this. I must hate black men and boys in order to be doing this kind of work, or just the wall of silence. And that wall of silence comes from black men and boys within the community, of course. And it also comes from black women, surprisingly, who I deem them handmaidens, because they sit complicit. They know about the violence that's going on, but they would rather push our issues to the side and push forward law enforcement involved killings of black men and boys. They don't even discuss black men and boys killing one another. The focus is only in our black community. The priority is law enforcement involved killings of black men and boys.
Wow. Okay, so that brings me to this case in point. As you can see, I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to make this a little bigger. There's this particular case right here. When you see this trio being accused of neglect, you mentioned handmaidens. I think maybe we should, well, you're already doing it. I think we need to, in the news, really talk about how we are really killing each other up, because more than likely, none of us is really going to get shot by the police like that. It's probably going to be someone who looked just like us. And I don't think the answer is talking about racism or capitalism. Something is wrong when you target your own like that.
Yes, yes, it is.
Tell me about this case here.
Okay, the case right there, that's a trio. Now those three, let me make sure it's the same three I'm talking about. I can't really see the screen.
Okay, I'm gonna change it up just a minute. Hold on, let me stop the share real quick so I can fix this.
Okay, because it's two different trios. It's a trio those three, if it's the one I'm not mistaken that you might have had up.
No, hold on just a minute. Hold that, okay?
Okay.
Get a hold of new technology. Yeah, we don't like the pause. Hold on. To a better space. I have a new computer system on this side. I just have to do something. So hold on. So hard. Hold on, we change something. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, I hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I've been hearing you. You haven't. You've been fine.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I'm moving. So hold on just a minute.
Okay.
I want to make this light on here.
Yeah. So I sent it to you. It's up. It's up on your screen.
I'm just trying to use it just for that. Why hasn't this come up like that over here? This is not coming up the right way. Hold on, let me. Oh, I'm gonna close some of this stuff. Oh, I see what happened. Okay. All right. Okay. Sure. Okay. That's them three, correct?
Yes, it's those three right there.
Okay. Okay. So tell us about this trio here.
Now, this trio here are they have been arrested for the murder of Mersha Victor, a 23-year-old, and a 23-year-old. It happened, I want to say, out in Georgia. And what happened on this case on July 20th, she was found behind a Kroger, a grocery store or a shopping center, and
Wow.
she had been reported missing on the 8th of July. And it is the police are saying she was actually killed shortly after shortly that day on the 8th. Now, a little background on it. Dennis Lane was a man that worked with her, and he called her to like meet up with her. And she, went out. He picked her up, took her back to his home, and nobody heard from her. Cleoncy Fisher is his brother, and Ranisha Preckwinkle, they don't have her name spelled correctly, is Cleancey's girlfriend. She went to Dennis Lane and Cleancey's apartment, and she was shortly killed after arriving there. The sick thing about this is that Dennis Lane tried to contact Mersha Victor's mother, trying to say that he doesn't know what happened to her, why she's being, what happened to her, and why people think that he might be involved in this. He asked to meet with Mersha Victor's mother, the victim, and she had the wherewithal to call the authorities. And she did go over there. Now, once she went over there, he was trying to plead his case with her, and the police made themselves, made it known that we're here too. They arrested him. They saw across the street from where he lived a bloody mattress, and there was blood and things inside of his apartment. They ended up finding her body, her daughter's body, but there was another body at that same spot, another Black female. So they had to wait and identify that young lady. But in the meantime, they confiscated a cell phone of Dennis Lane, where he actually had recorded himself abusing the corpse of Mersha Victor.
Oh my God.
So he's also being charged with abuse of a corpse, necrophilia, murder, disposing of a corpse. Cleancey Fisher and Ranisha, they apparently helped him dispose of Mersha Victor's body. And that's leading into who the second victim is. Now, the odd thing is, Cleancey Fisher actually son was killed by Dennis Lane a year ago, and they let him off. The authorities did, saying it was self-defense. So there's a lot of dysfunction with those brothers, as well as in this entire debacle. A second lady, the second young lady, she's 19 years old, and I actually talked to her mother. She was just identified a day or yesterday, and she's 19 years old. And this is showing you how serial killers are. The young lady that was found was a 19-year-old, and out of Stockbridge, Georgia, because this is where it happened. And her name is Contisha McCoy, 19. She was actually dating Dennis Lane sometime at the beginning of this year. She had been reported missing in February of this year. And an incident report said officers met with Contisha's mother at the police station. She was telling them that her daughter had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. She hadn't been taking her medicine, and she left in an Uber on February 23rd and hadn't been seen in days. Now, her mother also told the police her daughter's phone was off. There was no activity on her bank accounts, her Cash App, and her iCloud account was also disabled. Now, the victim's stepfather told police on March 2nd that she worked at a Walmart, and after contacting friends and family, he only knew she left in a gray car and she didn't take anything with her. And managers at the Walmart, they went ahead and pulled surveillance video for officials showing that the teen walked out of the store on February 11th, and she was seen getting inside of a dark sedan, which could be the gray car. Now, the report said the victim did tell one manager an ex-boyfriend was stalking her. Now, that ex-boyfriend is Dennis Lane. And the victim's mother gave police the number of 3 friends, according to this report. And one of the named friends was Dennis Lane. He's now, of course, charged with the murder of 23-year-old Mersha Victor. Now, police said again, this is showing a pattern. Police said that Dennis Lane showed up at the victim's mom's house at some point asking about her daughter's whereabouts. So he's coming over there acting all innocent. Now, I spoke with her mother, and her mother said that she always had a bad feeling, and when he tried to come and, see what was up, she said she knew something in her told her that he was involved with her daughter's disappearance. Now, fast forward to July 8th, they also found her remains. And so now these are two women connected to him. And I'm sure that the two that are posted, Cleoncy Fisher and Ronisha Preckwinkle, that they're also going to be charged in the disappearance and murder of that first young lady as well. But authorities are also saying that there may be possible other victims. Now, Dennis Lane has a long history. He's on the sex offender registry from, I want to say, about 96, 97. And he raped a 10-year-old girl in that case, spent about 17 years, and was put back out into the public. And so we see a trend with these violent offenders, whether it's rape, assault, even prior murders, being allowed to go free back into the community. And like I always say, we need to start calling attention to these judges and district attorneys who are doing this, these lawmakers who are allowing this catch and release, this low to no bail, this early release, all this sympathy, all this bleeding heart stuff needs to end, because all of the people from the legislators, the judges, district attorneys, they don't care, because these people aren't being released to their community. They're being released back into the Black community, so they're safe in suburbia or wherever it is that they live. And they don't have to worry about the likes of individuals like Dennis Lane, because they're not in their community. And Black women need to start putting down the fight about prison reform and sentencing, changing and sentencing reformation and all of that. That needs to be put to the side as a Black woman, because that's not our fight. In fact, it's harming us, because again, these criminals come back to reoffend and do the same crimes and even worse. And usually it's Black women, girls, children, and the elderly who are suffering from all of this madness that's going on.
Wow, I'm sitting here just dumbfounded. I mean, because every day you post about Black women and girls who have been murdered all throughout this country, and it's like crickets out here, And I really believe, this is just my personal belief, I think Black women who have sons, not all, but a good majority, they do not have the capacity to be fair and to be just, because it's their sons. And then we're also taught, like when I see these two Black men, I do not see brothers. I do not see people that's a part of me. I see the enemy. And so we got to stop they don't get the right to say they my brother when they're killing me. So that these are not brothers. So I think we have to kill that noise of saying that we're all family and we're all together, because we're really all not.
And we're not. That's something that I constantly say, that Black women need to do just like Black men. They need to learn how to compartmentalize and stop identifying with random Black male strangers.
Yeah.
And my page depicts Black men come on the page all the time, victimizing, once again, victim blaming the victims. And, calling them names if they had some type of history that the press likes to thrive on. Black men will say, hey, that ain't my sister. That's not my mother. So they don't see their loved ones estrange Black women, whereas Black women are taught to look at Black men or boys as their potential sons, fathers, uncles, cousins, what have you. We need to learn how to compartmentalize. A random Black man to me is a stranger.
Yep.
And if we can, if we have the wherewithal as Black women, because I've seen it, and I'm sure you have too. Oh, we know that this white man is a stranger. So we know how to treat white folks. But when it comes to Black folks, we lose all sense of self-protection and we drop our guards. And that's why you'll see us being taken advantage of, harmed, and killed. And like you said, when I see them, they don't look like my brothers.
No.
I have two blood brothers, and that's it.
Me too.
The ones down the street that I see walking, they're not my brothers.
Right on.
So we need to undo this toxic thinking that puts Black women and girls at a disadvantage. And I'd like to touch on what you said in regards to Black women with sons. I do come up against a lot of flack with them because when they will tell you, oh, well, not my son. Okay, ma'am, stop individualizing this and stop personalizing this issue. The reality is Black men and boys are harming us. No matter if you have a Black son, a Black husband, or what have you, you need to stop personalizing it. When I see a Black woman who has harmed her children, abused her children, I don't get upset because she's a Black mother like me. She's her own individual thing, and I don't identify with her. She's just as monstrous as those other monsters in the community. So, you know, it's just ridiculous because they'll say, oh, that's not my son, you know, or I have a Black son. And there was a case, I can't remember exactly where it was. Matter of fact, it was in Louisville, Kentucky. 2 teenage girls, this happened last week, age 15 and 16. A 16-year-old girl got killed one night at like 8 o'clock at night, like 8:50, the police found her. 5 hours later, at 1:45 in the morning, a second Black girl was found murdered right down the street where the original incident happened. The second incident, the police stated publicly that the adults who witnessed the second incident are not cooperating with the police because they have sons.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you don't have any women in your family that you care about, but then that goes back to the compartmentalization that Black men in the community do. So she's just a non-person at this point to them.
So, sis, that case you just talked about, what case was that you just talked about?
This happened in Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm going back on my spreadsheet to make sure you're talking about the 2 young women, correct? The 2 teenage girls that I'm talking about. Okay. Michelle Moore out of Louisville on the 16th. And the day before, Nyla Lanier, she's 16, she was killed. Now, authorities are saying that it had something to do, they're kind of alluding to the fact, they're not really saying definitively, but the police are saying that it had something to do with social media, somebody being insulted on social media.
This is real heavy stuff, and I'm taking these deep breaths because I feel like there is something very much wrong in our community. I don't care about other groups. I don't, because one of the things that pisses me off, we want to compare when white men do something as opposed to when black men. And no, I'm not. I'm not even concerned with the other groups. I'm not. I'm concerned to the group to which I get associated with. Because now it feels like an association, because they're not my family, so I don't belong to them. Because that belonging part is like discarding people like trash. Like there's too many black men discarding their children like trash.
Correct.
Now, people get mad because what I find is that the truth, when people defend things that are wicked, it's because they may be wicked themselves. I just start calling it the way I just call it the way I see it.
And this is what I have to say to the response where they'll say, white men kill, other people kill. Okay, they do. But we're talking about proximity, crimes of proximity. Right. So with that being said, white men are close. Of course, they're in close proximity to white women, Asian, what have you. But statistically, those groups that they like to go back to, they're not killing their women at the same rate. White men aren't killing. Right now, my data shows that a black woman or girl is being killed every 6 hours. And actually, it's a little less than that, okay? That's 2 hours shaved off of last year. We were at every 8 hours at the end of last year. As it stands now, we're at like 6.25. And keep in mind, South Africa is at every 3 hours. So we're right on South Africa's tail at this point. So white men aren't killing their women at the same rate. Asian men, Pacific Islanders, they're not killing their women at that rate. The only group of women that are surpassing us at this time is the Native American woman.
Because it's not as many as them anyway. Not to say it like that, but there's not as many Native Americans. But when you compare the two, and we had the same numbers, it's still more black people. See, that's where I'm at. I'm not trying to. I'm not saying they don't have issues going on, but in comparison to our issues, you can't.
But the reason I bring up the Native American woman is because there is legislation.
They're more valuable than black.
There's legislation geared towards finding out what has happened to all of these missing and murdered indigenous women. There is only one state in the United States, which is Minnesota, that has actually, they want to get a task force together to deal with missing and murdered black women and girls. One state, and it's not even legislation. They just want to set up a task force at this point. So when people start trying to throw these little tidbits at me, or okay, other people kill, that's when I can throw stuff back at them. So if you're not coming to me with facts, and black men like to tell you that we're too emotional, we're dealing with emotion. I do research. So again, I don't deal with emotion. I deal with the numbers and I deal with the research. So I throw it back at them.
So tell me about the gentleman we see here. Well, let's call him gentleman. This monster that you see here that got sentenced to 20 years for stuffing his young daughter inside of a suitcase and tossing her in the Jersey City. Is it an incinerator? I couldn't see the rest of it.
He tossed her over a bridge, actually. She was in a suitcase. He tossed her over a bridge. And he wanted to have his case retried. That was the thing about him. So the conviction stands. But check this out. He was convicted of killing his own child before that.
Wow.
So in 2005, he pled guilty to child neglect after his 8-month baby boy drowned in the bathtub. So now that's 2005. So fast forward 12, 13 years, he killed his daughter and stuffed her in a suitcase and was actually moving her body from place to place.
Wow.
They're saying she died of unspecified violence and cocaine intoxication sometime in the summer of 2017, but the date of her death has never been determined. They said he put her corpse in blankets, which went into a trash bag and a duffel bag, then a pink suitcase, and finally in a black suitcase. He told investigators he didn't know how the girl died, even though chemical carpet cleaner was used to try to cover up the smell of decomposition. And it, like, he tossed her over a bridge in that suitcase, and he left the state for Puerto Rico, but they ended up arresting him. He was arrested in Puerto Rico April 19th of 2018.
That's really, really sad. I'm just dumbfounded. I don't even know what to say about that.
So we go back to what I said earlier. These people have been convicted of heinous crimes prior, and now they're trying to put them back into the community.
Yeah.
So how did he get out of prison with the drowning death of the 8-month-old? So that's what I'm noticing repeatedly. These are repeat offenders, just repeat offenders. And it's not just like breaking and entering, thieves, things like that. We're talking about people being convicted of rape of children, pedophiles, murderers. These are hardened criminals who should never see the light of day again. And yet they're being put back into the community. And the Black community seems to not have a problem with this.
I think I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. But I also think this is further proof that there is no Black community.
No.
You understand what I'm saying? There just really cannot be. I think that, and it may be harder for other people to assist Black people because we're not really in community, but we like to talk like we are, but we really are not. I would hate to think of communities of us, really flat out condoning this. We kind of are condoning this in a way. The fact that we don't say anything about it. If you notice with this one, I am trying to show the faces of people who commit Black femicide.
Yes.
Look at the faces of these monsters, these brothers. I wouldn't care if the cop pulled him over and beat the hell out of him. I would not care a bit. I wouldn't care if they made him that out. Because he didn't think about that when he murdered his girlfriend. When he murdered his daughter.
An 18-year-old who was a senior in high school. He actually choked her to death. So that's real up close and personal.
Yeah.
So he choked her and left her in the car, and I believe he shot her too. But the police were called and they found her unconscious in the car.
Wow.
And so so now he was arraigned. He actually was arraigned today for her murder, which happened. I believe that happened in April. Did it happen in April of this year? So yeah, it happened April 17th of this year. So he was he's due back in court on September 29th for a pretrial conference, but the indictment today charged him with 1 count of second-degree murder, and he's being held without bail, which is unusual because we see $50,000 bonds with a 10% for murder of Black women. But there was a case out of Vegas. This doesn't even have to deal with femicide. There was a case out of Vegas where a guy carjacked a ambulance service and ambulance, and he was caught shortly thereafter. His bond is at 1.1 million. But a black woman's life or black girl is usually roughly worth around $50,000 to $75,000, according to the courts, with 10%.
Wow. Wow. I'm sitting up here just dumbfounded because that's the kind of stuff when people want to talk to me about police brutality, I just don't want to hear the shit. That's where I'm at. I'm not saying that it don't exist because it looked like I watched something called Amazing Grace last night. It's like a film with Moms Mabley. So they've been dealing with police brutality forever. But I feel like if we're not going to talk about black femicide and the killing of black girls and women by people in their own communities, then I really don't want to talk about shit. That's where I'm at these days. So you're not going to hear me talking about much or nothing when it comes to that, because I feel like the total embarrassment when we have cases like this one right here. But, and then you wonder what's going on with our girls. We'll be complaining about Megan Thee Stallion, even though I'm not all into what she does. But we will say nothing about when young boys are doing stuff like this. But we want, you know what I mean? It's just something about you being able to control yourself. Women are always expected to control what they wear, how they wear it, where they wear it. But when it comes to black men and and black boys who feel like they just own and can disregard black women and black girls' life and beings and sexual violence, it's just it's off the chain. And we'll be fighting for rights to keep these two jokers out of jail.
Right, and those are two 19-year-olds, and they were with 3 other teens who were like 13, 14, and 15, and they decided to go break in someone's home, and there happened to be an 11-year-old little black girl who was at home alone, and they went ahead and gang raped her. Now the district attorney, he's so disgusted by this because he says it was extremely graphic, and he didn't even want to go into exactly what occurred to the child. He just called the acts against the girl horrific. He said they took turns raping the victim until her mother came home, and at that time they fled the scene, and they even stole a cell phone from the scene. And with those with those 5, it says a second incident took place where they picked up a 13 and 14-year. They picked up the 13 and 14-year-old who were with them, and they saw Flynn is a 19-year-old up there on the screen. He saw a 16-year-old girl that knew, and they offered to give her a ride. But instead of taking her to where she wanted to go, they drove to a park and raped her. And then from there, they held her hostage, drove her to another location where they picked up that 5th person and another unnamed 19-year-old suspect who remains at large. So it's actually 6 people, or 5 in this case. The 5 teens are accused of raping her twice again. And she was reportedly held prisoner inside a garage for several hours before she was able to escape. And a Good Samaritan found her walking barefoot on the side of the road, and they drove her to a location where she was able to call for help. Now, the district attorney is calling for 40 separate counts against them, including 1 count of predatory assault of a child, 2 counts of first-degree criminal sexual act, 1 count of second-degree burglary, and 1 count of endangering the welfare of a child in the first case. Now, in the second case, they're also charging one of those posted on the screen with first-degree kidnapping, 6 counts of predatory sexual assault, and 16 counts of first-degree rape, among other charges. And the district attorney is like, this is like the most counts that they've ever had to deal with. He said this is the biggest case he can remember out there, where he's had to levy so many charges against someone in Erie County, that many indictments. And he's just saying it's unused, and he's upset too, because he says both juveniles are being charged as adults, but they haven't released their pictures or names to the public. And he says it's going to depend on whether or not they have any priors about if the charges will stick as far as charging them as adults. And he's saying the only reason he has jurisdiction of a 13-year-old is because it was a sexually motivated crime. He said that normally the only time he deals with children or teenagers is with murder. This is just insane to him. So defense lawyers are trying to have the charges transferred to family court to keep it out of, big court. But the district attorney says he's going to vigorously fight against that. He said the 13 and 14-year-olds deserve to spend as much time in prison as possible, despite their young years. He says there's nothing more that he wants than to make sure justice is served for that 11 and 16-year-old girl.
Right on. Sister Rosa, I just don't know what I would do without you being able to report these cases to us. Because, this is not on the radar. It should be on the radar. Because even though we're talking about these stories that are across the country, we know that this happens every day, even in our local cities where we are. And nobody comes forward, because we have this wall of silence where we protect jokers like these two. And it's a wall of silence that we're going to have to break. And they need to be put on the spot. And I don't care if they throw the book at them and they be in jail till they 99. That's how I feel about it. Because maybe they can't be free. Maybe they have to be in jail. That's what I think. People like this, I don't believe in reform like that. I don't. But
the district attorney says that these 5 or 6 teens, they had like what he calls it, like a mini baby gang, because there was young teenagers involved. So it seems like they are known within the community already for going around and wreaking havoc. And when you say we don't know what's going on in our community, I'm going to go back to the Louisville, Kentucky story. When I initially reported it, I had made a comment on the first girl who was found at like 8:50 that night. And I made a comment on it that there was a second girl that was found 5 hours later. A woman who actually lives on the street came on the post and attempted to correct me and stated that that wasn't true, that she hadn't heard anything about a second teen being found. I always check my sources with law enforcement and everything. Her name hadn't been released to the public, so I can't say anything. I told her, yes, it's definitely true. There was a second teen involved. So after the family went ahead and identified her, they released her name, and I told the lady, what she said to me was, oh my God, I did not know. My son came home and saw the police in the alley. We thought they were still investigating the first murder. So she's in the community and didn't even know that But
she also was protecting. That's predator protect. That's protecting predators. That's what she was. She can play it off all she wants, but she was protecting. And I think those people should, when people protect predators, they should be sentenced to something. That's what I think we have to have a way of stopping this cold.
Yeah, I told her, I said, no, ma'am, my information is good. There was a second girl who was murdered almost 5 hours later, 5 hours and 55 minutes actually. And it's true what I'm trying to tell you. A second girl was murdered. and she says no. She was trying to tell me no. So like I said, as soon as the information was released and I was able to post about it, I posted it. And then she's going to follow up and say, oh my God, I didn't know. My son saw the police activity in the alley.
Her son, you hear that? Because she has a son. See what I'm saying?
Yes. And I leave that commentary to stand. So if someone wants to go back on the post, they'll see it where she said it, and then she comes back and apologizes or whatever and says, oh, well, my son, and we thought it was the same police investigation from earlier.
She should have just shut her mouth and just waited. You know what I mean? Give that same respect to the murder victim that you given to some predators because you think it's your son. And I don't know if her son was to do something, she probably would be protecting him, and she should be in jail too. But I think we have to have something so catastrophic that make people feel so accountable that this shit will stop cold. But that's just me. And I know that always works for black people. You gotta do something drastic.
But you said predator, which is a perfect segue for what you have on the screen. This man is accused of killing his girlfriend of more than 20 years. Now, the key word, more than 20 years. He's 57. The victim in the case, 40, which means he's been messing with her over 20 years, which suggests to me he probably was messing with her as a teen and he was in his 30s. So again, we need to talk about how the black community feels that it's okay. She grown, she fast, she wanted it, she knew what she was doing. And men like him know that they have protection in the community because black girls are victimized. They're never seen as victims.
That's so true.
Just like the R. Kelly case now. I'm sure now he's going to lose his support from the black community. Why? Because now he's being accused of sexually assaulting a black boy.
I don't know. They still may protect them though, because black folks are that sick.
Well,
I mean, no, they're serious. Black men can do some heinous shit, and we be riding with them. Oh, he was a victim. He was abused.
That's true.
Ain't nobody want to hear this shit. When you start abusing people, you lose your being a victim for me. Yeah,
there should be no support, and we keep hearing. And to me, sexual assault of anyone is heinous. It's heinous. I'm not going to downplay it. Black boys get raped, just like black girls. They get abused. But my point is this. When black men or black boys grow up and become men and they rape people and whatnot, the first thing they want to say is, he was raped. He was sexually molested. That, and the third. But how come black women who have been raped as children, how come we're not going out here wreaking that same havoc? So we grew up in the same community alongside these black men, just like I say from slavery. Black women were in slavery, enslaved to black men.
And sometimes worse, they have to be in the house with these damn people.
Exactly. So we incur the same type of violence for those of us who live in these bad communities or areas or whatever you want to call them. And you don't see black women doing the same level of criminal behavior. You don't see them out here selling dope and using poverty as an excuse. There are, it's time out for the excuses of why things are going on. Things are going on because the black community protects black men and boys and do not want to admit that they actually thrive on dysfunction. And victims are not, nobody cares about victims in the Black community. It's all about the Black man or boy and what circumstances and why he did what he did.
Right on. Here's another, because it's not just Black women that are being murdered. Here is a murder of a 6-year-old girl. I mean, come on, y'all.
He murdered.
This is her father.
And no, that's not her father. That's someone else. But the father, they believe this was all related to drugs because they made a drug bust, and the father was indicted on narcotics conspiracy. So during the course of this investigation of this little girl being murdered, an indictment on narcotics ended up coming down, because when they raided the place, there were drugs and guns and all kinds of stuff where the father was at. So
what chance did she have?
Huh? No
what chance did she have?
They were children who have no choice are being put in dangerous situations. That's the time where I say mothers need to protect their children. Now, there was a 10-year-old girl who was murdered sitting at a picnic table waiting for her DoorDash.
What?
Yes, she was sitting at a picnic table waiting for her DoorDash in the little park across from her house, a little community park. Somebody drove up and decided to spray bullets. She was killed. I believe she was shot in the head. 4 young men, all under the age of 21, were arrested, and their response, it wasn't supposed to go down like that.
Oh God.
So again, just violence in the community. It normalized. So you're shooting into just shooting willy-nilly, and an innocent child she's murdered now because it wasn't supposed to go down like that.
You didn't have enough courage to go hand in hand with the person, so now you got to go shooting everybody up. See, that kind of stuff. And that's why, for me, I feel like you can never get rid of the police, because Black people aren't capable of governing themselves. We're just not capable. We don't do law and justice with each other, so we're gonna have to have this other force. We got to, because y'all have some similar respect for, because they'll kill you. So I don't know what else, but I'm definitely not one for defunding the police. I don't even believe in that. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I say defund poverty pimps. That's what I say. Defund. Don't give them no more money.
I say the same thing. Now this person was arrested after leaving a body in an apartment. It was a 18-year-old girl, and he's alleging that she pointed an AR-15 at him and that they were fighting over the weapon. Somehow she gets shot, and instead of him calling for help, he drags her body up the stairs and into his apartment and goes home. But the thing is, he goes to his mother's house. And the thing I have to say is that I have to commend his mother, because his mother actually is the one who contacted the authorities and brought him in.
Right on. Now that is a mother. That's why I said not all Black women with sons. Some of them still got good sense, because she knew he was wrong, and she did not protect him for what he did that was wrong.
No.
See, that even sounds crazy, me even saying that. But some people got this motherhood so twisted with their sons, and when their sons do things wrong, they're protecting them, and then get mad like that's supposed to be the law. What happened to your justice?
And the thing is, it makes me wonder still, why he felt so comfortable going to his mom's house, you know, thinking that she wasn't going to do anything.
Because we do protect, some women do protect their sons when they do all kind of god awful shit. You know, sometimes it be a little shaky and questioning how women must really feel about their sons. Because sometimes it should be almost like borderline something else. You know what I mean? What about this case here?
This case here, and those are driver's license pictures. Sometimes people think they're mug shots, but those are driver's license pictures. The young woman right there, she has been kidnapped by the guy. They say he's 21, but he looks older than 21 to me. And he actually pulled her out of another car. She was in a car with her friend, another lady. He pulled her out of the car, put her in his car, and there was another man and woman in his car, and her friend tried to follow them to try to help her friend. He shot her friend.
Oh my God.
So her friend, she ended up going to surgery. She was in critical condition, but she's okay. But they're looking for her. They're looking for the woman and him and whoever these two idiots that were with him.
Wow. This is, sometimes I'm just speechless. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just really, really speechless. And the reason why I'm wanting to show, maybe this will make Black folks look when you show just the Black man. That's what I'm hoping.
That's why I try always to get a picture of the victims and the perpetrators, because we need to see that when you see a victim, that could be you, because these fools are out in the community just going crazy. That could be you. And I show the man because, hey, that could be your brother, your son, your uncle, whatever. That's who these people are. This man right here, he killed his wife as she was cooking his birthday dinner.
Oh my God.
As she was cooking his birthday dinner. Her father says he didn't know what was going on, and he went over to see what was going on with his daughter, and he said by the time he got there, police tape was around the house and whatnot, and the father was retired from the Air Force, and the wife, the girl, his wife, his daughter's mother, I think she died 2 or 3 years ago, but he moved from Colorado to believe it was in Alabama. He moved there and he came out of retirement as a teacher, with his family, to help his children. He did the best he could. It sounds like it's a very decent man. I usually try to go on their social media to see what kind of feeling I get. And the father of the victim, it just seems like it was a very close, loving family. And he's saying again the usual. They were fighting over a gun. Another case of fighting over a gun, and it was accidental. But I don't believe that for 1 second. I don't believe that because the victims aren't here to tell their story. Right. So I try to remind my followers that we take the word of perpetrators with a grain of salt, because a lot of times they will try to do a smear campaign of the victim, further victimizing them.
Right.
So whatever it takes to make them look good, they'll do it.
That's crazy. That is absolutely not cooking his birthday dinner.
Actually cooking his birthday dinner.
Ooh. What
that was the case I was telling you. That was a 13-year-old girl. It didn't mean to go down that way. She was the one who was sitting at the picnic table waiting for her DoorDash. And those are the 4 who did this drive-by. I mean, you're shooting aimlessly. What did you expect to go down?
And look at them. They all look like young men we see in the street every day.
Yeah, they do. Somebody you see walking down the street, driving in a car, whatever, at the mall.
I don't know. I'm showing the monstrous murdering men and boys today. That's who I'm showing. I think we got to be familiar with their faces and their wickedness. What we do. I don't want to hear that reform shit. You don't reform this does not bring the dead back.
No.
Social justice does not bring the dead back. You know what I mean?
And all of these people who are doing this social justice warrior are usually white folks who have some form of white guilt or a, the savior complex. So that's why they do it. And Black people who do it, they're usually the ones who are wanting to, save every Black man and boy because the system is against.
And sometimes people do it because their sons is in jail because they didn't do a good job with their kids, or they're in love with somebody that's sitting on death row or in jail who they want to have home. We just don't have any responsibility or accountability in these so-called Black families and community households, whatever you want to call them, dwellings, whatever. We just do not. There was a time when you did something wrong in the Black community, damn it, you was in trouble for it. Your mama did not. I stole one time. My mama made me go back to take the shit back. I had to work in this person's house. My mother was like, I don't produce thieves. She didn't say, oh, that's because I'm doing. My mom had no excuse. We do not steal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that is gone. My mom never had no excuses for us doing stuff. We had to stand on our own truths. I don't know what you do with a group of people who have no responsibility for themselves. I don't know what you do with people like that. And I really don't want to hear no excuses about economic, because I come from some poor people, but we always had morals and values. That has nothing to do with poverty. Sorry to tell y'all. You can have dignity and be poor.
You can.
You have dignity and struggle. Because I come from people like that. Who is
now
this in New Orleans? I guess it was.
This one right here, I already know where he's going to try and go with his story. He's going to try to plead insanity because he said that he blacked out. Yet he stabbed his pregnant ex-girlfriend. He stabbed her, and then he beat her in the face with a hammer. So you black out and use 2 different weapons? Or you black out while you're stabbing her, drop the knife, and then beat her in the face with a hammer? Again, these are very calculated, and usually criminologists will tell you certain crimes, such as beating someone in the face, that is some hatred, and he wanted to destroy her by any means necessary by going for her face.
Yes, you're right. You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right.
He wants to say he blacked out. Now, another case, a lady was found on the side of the road. Nobody knew who she was, and they ended up tracing it back to him. So he decides, and they're not saying whether they were in a relationship or not, but he killed her and just threw her on the exit ramp, I guess, and he was even off of the highway. He just throws her on the exit ramp like a bag of discarded fast food.
Mm.
Just trash. And again, look at him. These are people we see in the community.
Yep. Somebody be protecting him. Like, oh, he had a hard upbringing. Don't nobody care about that.
Yes.
I know.
How many of us have had, there was one, and I'm just going to you don't have to post this, but I'm going to go ahead and discuss this case right quick. And this is just something historical. Okay. I posted today about Martin Luther King's mother, how she was assassinated in church by a black man. She was assassinated in church by a black man. But the thing that struck me with her case was that she was killed by a father of these Hebrew Israelites who have a history. Because, yeah, he was a follower. He was a Hebrew Israelite, and his mentor was, at that time, one of the big people in a big pastor in the Hebrew Israelite religion. So that was his mentor. Wow. And I bring that up because I talk about cults in the Black community. And the Hebrew Israelites are one of the biggest cults that I've reported on continuously, who have killed women and children. They've imprisoned them. They kidnapped them. They use them for their financial resources. And I'm sure I'll get backlash from people who might be a follower of the Hebrew Israelites. But these Hebrew Israelites, they are very dangerous to Black women and girls. They're very dangerous. Black women, girls, and children. In their ranks, of them, ex-convicts. And they meet in prison. They find whatever God it is that they find, because I wouldn't think a God will tell you to come abuse people. So whatever God it is that they find, they all connect in prison, come out, and further and perpetuate their criminal behavior, their criminal activity. Nothing changes. They just use it under the guise of religion. But I just thought it was something that the Hebrew Israelites go back even as far as Martin Luther King's mother being murdered in the church, went up in the church and killed her. The man wanted to kill Jesse Jackson, but I guess Jesse Jackson wasn't easily accessible, so he kills Martin Luther King's mother.
Wow. I think any kind of religion that doesn't allow you to think for yourself and to interpret for yourself, and it has to be on a robotic, almost kind of belief system, is just dangerous.
Very, very.
Because so many Black people lack culture and identity and the whole lot, they will just follow anything and anybody. Let's just be honest. We know in our community that is a problem. We are constantly just following people just to follow people. And
even with that nature boy guy, that nature boy who's been kicked out of different countries, he has women willing to continue to subject themselves to his foolishness, taking them out of the country, starving them, getting their children taken away. And Black women in particular continue to follow this man. He has already been identified by Canadian authorities as a cult leader, because Canada had to step in a few years ago and go get one of their citizens from his cult, because their family went to the Canadian government and said, daughter is over in this country, she's involved in this cult. And Canada was like, they published Nature Boy. They publicized him went and extracted that young woman out of his camp, and that was the end of that. But the United States, I feel that United States does not do anything because of who the followers are. They are Black people. The Canadian woman at that time, he had white people in his group when he was starting, but that Canadian woman was a white woman. So the Canadian government extracted her, but the rest of them folks, they stayed. Mama D was a Black woman who was one of his followers. She ended up stopped taking her medication and whatnot. She ended up dying because he's talking about holistic eating, bear, all of that jazz. And so this woman ended up dying. So that's another cult that I keep close watch on and follow. Because too many Black women are being harmed by him.
Well, look, as we wrap up, I put the R. Kelly up here since you brought that up.
Yes.
Who is this young man? Is this somebody who worked in the studio, or?
It was actually a young man who, the same thing. He wanted to have he wanted to be in the industry. I think he was a rapper or a singer, one of those two. And according to the young man, who they're not identifying as of yet, he said that R. Kelly told him, well, these are the things that you have to do in order to be in the industry. And he raped and molested this 17-year-old. And the 17-year-old boy, according to him, there's a boy, his friend, who was also involved in this thing where R. Kelly abused them and would watch them have sex with others, or maybe even join in. It's just very horrible, salacious, whatever you want to call it. The details are horrendous. But the another interesting fact about this new information that they're bringing is that they're finally bringing up the Aaliyah case with him. They're finally talking about it, and I guess they're going to try to use that to show R. Kelly's history of abusing girls.
Well, that would be good. I just feel like we might have to cast that net a little wider, though.
Yeah,
a lot of people still walk around in our communities.
Oh yes,
we gotta stop protecting the R. Kellys. We gotta stop calling these people brothers, and these are our dad. No, these are predators. These are monsters.
Yes,
they don't get to be brothers.
And adultifying Black girls and victim blaming, because that's the running thing. She's fast. She's this. She's that. She knows what she's doing, and which totally exonerates the predator. And there was a case in Florida. I'm going to bring this up right quick. A case in Florida where a guy went up to a young girl and on a sticky note, he wrote his phone number on it and told the girl, hey, call me. I pay girls for certain things. So the girl, and I'm so glad that she did what she did. She went to the fire station and told them, and the police took the sticker with her number and started acting like the young lady, and actually arrested him because he thought he was talking to her. She was only 14, and he told her he wanted to pay her $80 for oral sex. But they ended up arresting this guy. It's on my page, and I believe I put his picture up. And he does, to me, he has a history of doing this. In order for him to feel comfortable with just going up to some random teenager, young lady, and doing something like that, lets me know he was comfortable in doing what he did. So I'm sure she might be the first one who went and told authorities, but I'm sure there may be other victims of his disgusting behavior.
We'll talk. We'll talk. Well, look, family, this is Black Femicide. Sister Rosa, thank you so much. Please go to her page on Facebook, subscribe, support, share these stories. This is one of the, this is one of your, this is from your page. But that number has changed. So now in 2021, to date, we have 806 Black women and girls who are murdered in the United States, which is up about 200 or so from this time last year. And last year is up from like about 60. So it's increasing, fam. It's increasing, which means we have to do more to protect our Black girls and women, because once it's over for the Black woman, it is over for everyone. So, sisters, anything you want to say in parting?
Yes, for those who are in Atlanta, September 25th, we will be having a march in Atlanta at Woodruff Park on September 25th. It's going to be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And this is kicking off our national awareness for Black femicide. And like I said, it's going to be a march. And they're going to, everything is ran by Black women. Our vendors are Black women. Our entertainment will be Black women. This is all about Black women and girls. And we want to show what true sisterhood is, not just something, a word to throw around, but we want to show exactly what sisterhood looks like. So, whoever's in the area, if you can be there, be there, but we will, and there's no charge, we'll take, offerings, but there is definitely no charge for anything. Of course, the vendors and food and whatnot, there will be a cost for that, but it doesn't cost to attend the march. And I attended one back in June here in Arkansas. It was not, it was roughly 100 or so people there. It was small, but it was the first one. So every year we look for it to be larger. And actually a young lady by the name of Coffee Davis, she actually is the one who initiated the march here in Arkansas. And she actually wanted me to be a part of, be a speaker there to talk about Black femicide here in Arkansas. So we had actually had politicians and local news media that were there.
Well, I want to read this. It says, we march for the liberation of Black women and girls. We march awareness to the issue that Black women and girls face uniquely and disproportionately. We march to honor Black women and girls and to discuss our plan of action on our future in this country that directly ties to our liberation. That in itself is incredible. Family, you gotta have young girls, bring them to this Black Women's March, y'all. It's on Saturday the 25th, 2021. This is gonna be in Atlanta, Georgia, in Atlanta from 9 to 1 p.m. So local march, special guest speakers and raffles, food, Black women, business owners, and vendors, y'all. We gotta stand up and support Black women and girls, just like that. There's a lot happening with us, and this should be like a state of emergency. I'm telling you, it's a state of emergency. So the best way to get rid of Black people is to get rid of the woman. Then you won't even be here. Right. Thank you, Sister Rosa. Family, we will see you all. Don't jump off the yet. Thank you all, family. I'll be back with another special report. I'll be reporting on Haiti, and I'll talk with y'all soon. Peace and blessings.
Artlist.io